Hi, friends. My name is Neil, and I'm a part of ODCH Apti, and we are over here to take you through some of the aptitude concepts. So today, I want to talk to you about the concepts of uh, percentage and change of base. Now, I've seen over the years that we face a lot of trouble, especially when we change basis in terms of percentage. The concepts of percentages as such that we need to focus and we need to understand that percentages are not just absolute numbers. Basically, percentages are a relative term, and hence percentages are nothing but ratios. So, अगर आप परसेंटेज के क्वेश्चंस को सक्सेसफुली सॉल्व करना चाहते हो तो आपको ये समझना पड़ेगा दैट परसेंटेजेस आर कैलकुलेटेड ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर बेस जिसको हम बोलते हैं द टोटल और विच इज द 100%. नाउ मेनी अ टाइम्स व्हेन आई आस्क दिस क्वेश्चन टू पार्टिसिपेंट्स और स्टूडेंट्स आई आस्क देम सो टेल मी in your class 10 how many marks did you score, what was your marks? So they say 83%. Now the question and the answer, they're totally different. The question that I asked was how many marks did you score in your class 10? So the answer over here should have been 800 on maybe 1000. If 1000 was the total marks, I scored 800 or 830. So instead of saying 830 out of 1000, the answer that they give me is 83%. Now I did not ask that what was the percentage of marks that you scored. So somehow this answer also of 83% has in the society become acceptable. People accept that yes, if you ask marks, then you can answer in percentage, or if you ask what is India's GDP, you can simply say 7.5%. What one fails to understand is that these are not the correct answers. 7.5% could be a GDP growth percentage with respect to what was basically the GDP growth last year to this year. The growth could be a 7.5%. But when it comes to the GDP, it has to be in absolute terms, like some $1 trillion, $3 trillion, or $4 trillion. So the point that I'm trying to make is that whenever you're solving questions on percentage, you have to figure out that what are the bases. So we'll just talk about some simple concepts of percentage and how the change of basis can be tackled, right? So for that, of course, we have to be pretty good with the ratio proportion. We need to be very clear with the concepts of ratios, as well as we need to be clear about what are the bases. Now, let's understand. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share the screen and let's solve a few questions and let's figure out how these questions can be dealt with ease. So friends, if you see over here, uh, if I talk to you about, let's say, uh, so suppose I say that, let's say A, let's start. Suppose I say that, A, let's say is 20% of B. And the question is, let's say that what percentage is B of A? Now, this is the question that has been asked. So you can clearly see that this is a change of base question. Change of base question, as in we're talking about over here that how from B we are changing the base to A. So when we are changing the base to A, so what we need to understand over here is that A is 20% of B. A is 20% of B. So what percentage is B of A? Now, if A is 20% of B, which means that here the base is B and the base is always 100%, right? So we say that over here, we can say simply that if in the first case, if A is equal to 20, in that case, we can say that, you know, uh, in that case, B over here is equal to 100, right? So if A is equal to 20, then B is equal to 100. So the question right now is that what percentage is B of A, which means I'm saying that if B over here is not known, we don't know what is B. And if we know that A is equal to 100, now, why I'm saying A is equal to 100, because the question has been asked that I'm changing the base right now from B to A. As we discussed, that whichever is the base, we can take it as 100, right? So as you can see over here, from 20 to 100, to get from 20 to 100, I have done is basically I have multiplied a 5. So similarly, I'll also have to multiply a 5 over here. So I have to make it as 500, so that the ratios, they remain similar of A to B, right? So if A is 20 percentage of B, so clearly what percentage is B of A? It is equal to 500%. So the answer to this question over here would be equal to 500%. See, I can also solve the same question by using ratios and proportion. Now, how do I do that? Now, if I say A is 20% of B, now what is 20% basically, my friend? 20% is nothing but 1 by 5. 20% is 1 by 5. So base over here is 5, right? So over here, if A, this is depicting the value of A, then this is basically depicting the value of B in terms of ratios. So as per the question, what percentage is B of A, right? So over here, as per the question, if I make A as 100, then what will be the value of B? Now, because both over here are the ratios of A and B, so I can simply say that 1 by 5 is equal to 100 divided by what? So that is B. So if I just solve this, so B comes over here, gets multiplied to 1, and 100 multiplied by 5 becomes equal to 500. So the answer is over here 500%, right? So let's try and solve a little more complicated question over here. So what we can do is, if I say that A, you know, is 20% more than B, then by what percentage is, the question is by what percentages, let's say B less than A. So this is the question. So if A is 20% more than B, now that by what percentage is B less than A? Now, if we look at the question at the surface, it seems that the answer should be 20%, because if A is 20% more than B, then B should ideally be 20% less. But that's not how we are going to solve this question, because if you see, conveniently the question, the base has now shifted. The base has been shifted from B to A. So if the base changes, so your percentage will also change, right? So why do I say that? Because percentages out of what are you calculating? Now, if we try and solve the question, and if we draw a small, let's say, if we just go by the percentage, we can say, okay, chalo, if A is 20% more than B, so B is the base and B has to be 100. So what is A? A is 120, because it is 20% more. But in the second question, what I'm trying to do is I'm changing over here. If you see, I'm changing the base from A to, from B to A. So if I'm changing the base from B to A, then what is 100%? The amount that is the variable that is 100% right now becomes A. So if A is 100, then what would be the value of B? I have to first figure out that. And of course, if you see over here, the A is how much more than B? A is, if you see, A is 20% more. A is 20 more. So now I have to figure out that by how much is B less than A. This is what I have to figure out if A is 100, right? So if you see again over here, there are two ratios. One is, this is 120 and this is 100, and this is 100, and this is how much this I have to calculate. So when A is 120, B is equal to 100. So when is equal to Y equal to, because the ratio of A and B is still constant, right? So when B is 100, then what would be the value of, when A is 100, and what will be the value of B? Now, this is what we are trying to figure out, right? So what is the value of B? The value of B is equal to, we can say this is 100 multiplied by 100 divided by 120. So if you cancel this, this becomes 6, this becomes 5. So this is 500 by 6. Now, what is 500 by 6? Basically, if you calculate this, 500 by 6 is basically 83.33%. So by what is the value that B is less than A right now? It is 16.66%, right? So we can also solve this question by using the value of ratios even faster. We'll just look at the value of which A is more. That is all that we'll look at right now. So suppose I say, see if we do a small table over here, We say this is A and this is B, and we try to solve it by the ratio proportion method. Now, when I say someone is 20% more, right, that means someone is one more if the other person is five, because the ratio of 20 and 100 is 1 is to 5. So I can say if B is 5 over here, the value of A is 1 more, because 20% is 1 by 5. So I can say the value of A is equal to 6 when the value of B is 5, right? So what is the difference right now? The difference between A and B is nothing but 1. 1 is the difference, right? So when A is 6, B is 5, the difference is 1. What was my question? By what percentage is B less than A? Of course, B is also less by 1. Okay. But what is the base this time? The base is A. So the answer to this question over here will be equal to 1 divided by 6. 1 and the base is A, right? So 1 by 6. Now, what is 1 by 6 in terms of percentage? That is 1 by 6 multiplied by 100%, which is also equal to 16.66%, right? So this is how you can solve questions which are based on the change of base of percentage. I hope I made myself clear over here. I'll see you with another concept in our next session. Till then, keep practicing and make sure that quantitative aptitude is not the reason why you are not getting through one of your competitive exams. Just